Washington USC game interesting for a number of reasons, not the least being each one of those teams could really use a win. What stands out to you, though, in the matchup?
Yeah, I mean, you've got two former Pac-12 foes, but interestingly enough, because they were in different divisions, they've only played each other twice in the last 8 years. And actually, the last time USC beat Washington, you have to go back to 2016 when Sam Darnold was the quarterback. So I do think there's some context around this rivalry that's helpful. There's no denying that Washington's arch rival is Oregon. But when you go back to like the Jim Owens and the Don James eras in Seattle, the team that mattered most was USC, because back then the path to the Rose Bowl always went through the Trojans. So if you were going to do something special, it was always USC standing in the way. John McKay, the Trojans Hall of Fame coach in the 60s and 70s, he tormented the Huskies. Like, he never lost a game to UW. So I think the older generations have different memories of this rival than some of the new generations do. And then, Dave, for this year's matchup, you throw in the extra layer that USC athletic director Jen Cohen is headed back to Washington this weekend for the first time since she left her role there as the AD in Seattle. And for Big Ten fans who may not know, like, Jen Cohen, for so long, she was Husky athletics. She had a great story. She grew up going to Husky football games with her dad. She idolized Don James. She worked at UW for 25 years. She has a ton of great relationships in that community. So I'm sure it's going to be an emotional return for her. And my hope is that she gets a warm welcome back, because she certainly did a lot for that athletic department and was one of the great leaders. There's a ton of history and we could go on, but the point being, this is a great West Coast rivalry, and we'll see if USC can finally get their first Big Ten road win against a team that has yet to lose at home and in fact has won 18 in a row at home. Neither of these teams are going to the playoff. We know that, but this last month is critical, as you mentioned, for both Lincoln Riley and Jedd Fisch. So what do you got your eye on, Dave?
Some excellent perspective. First of all, there, obviously, you covered these teams for so long at the Pac-12 networks. It is interesting, like we had the same thing with Pat Chun, right, at Washington going back to Wazoo. So these athletic director moves have been interesting this year. As far as the game's concerned, I guess it felt like USC finally came alive in the past game there against Rutgers, more dynamic, I think, than they had been in previous weeks. I'm interested to see, can you keep that going? I mean, this Washington pass defense is really, really good. Opponents are completing less than 49% of their passes against the Huskies. If that seems good, it's because it is. That is the best in the nation. And then just kind of trying to get to the bowl game. I mean, USC's schedule is challenging. Washington's really hard too. They still have State in Oregon after this. Again, I understand these are not programs that measure themselves by did we make a bowl. I get that.
Right.
But you want to at least make a bowl, right? I mean, saying we didn't make a bowl is a lot worse than saying, hey, we made a bowl, but it still could have been a better year. So I'm fascinated by that. I think it's going to be a really intriguing game and excited to watch it with you Saturday night here on the Big Ten Network. Well, up next,